Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about all 9 studio albums by Blur. We're going to rank all 9 studio albums by the band Blur. And just a quick little backstory. Back in the mid-90s, I wasn't really keen on the whole Britpop thing. I listened to a few of the bands. Didn't do a whole lot for me. I liked Live Forever by Oasis. I picked up the Pulp album. I forgot which one it was even. I never even explored the Blur catalog. What I heard from Blur, I didn't really care for. Girls and Boys was one of the few songs that was played on K-Rock. A few years later, it was song number 2. So I just never had an inclination to explore the catalog. But annually at this record store in Studio City, California, called Freak Beat Records, they have these amazing blowout of CDs. All 99-cent used CDs are for $0.25 on these annual events. And so, you can go in there with $10 and not even spend $10. And that day I picked up a stack of quarter CDs. One of the CDs that I picked up was Park Life. I brought it home. And of course I knew Girls and Boys, the first track, but from track 2 onward, it just absolutely blew me away. From song to song, just the range of the album, the song quality, the playing, just the whole album blew my ass away after first listen. I couldn't believe it. That Blur had this kind of range. I never knew Blur was on this kind of level, right? You just never know till you explore a catalog, right? So from that day onward, I had to hear everything from Blur. So the past couple of years, I've been playing half their catalog almost nonstop, right? Half of their catalog I just absolutely adore. So anyway, let's start off with number 9. And this is my least favorite Blur album, but there's still about 4 tracks on here I really dig. And that is Think Tank from 2003. This is their first album in 4 years, coming after their previous album, 13, from 1999. Graham Coxon, the guitarist, is not on this album. This is the only album he doesn't appear on. He appears on one track, which is one of my favorites on the album, Battery in Your Leg. That's really cool. There's other tracks on here. Out of Time I like. I love Damon Albarn's vocal on that. Good Song is cool, Caravan, but most of the album is more on the experimental side, kind of Kid A-ish. It seemed like a lot of the bands in the mid-90s or early 90s, mid-90s were all doing the electronic thing, including Blur. They started doing it even on their self-titled album of 97. It was kind of creeping in, but I like that album a lot. And then the 13 album that came after that, about half of that album is full of experimental kind of electronic stuff. This one is more electronic than song-oriented, and I'm more of a Blur song-oriented kind of guy. I love the way they construct songs, the verse, chorus, verse, the middle 8, the bridge. That to me is my favorite kind of Blur, but still not a bad album. It's very atmospheric. And there's about a handful of tracks I really dig on here. So this is coming in at number 9 for me, Think Tank. And I think it does suffer from not having Graham Coxon on it. And by the way, Graham Coxon, just an amazing guitarist. That's another thing I discovered with Blur. This amazing guitarist, Graham Coxon. He's like the Johnny Marr of the 90s. I mean, he's now entered my favorite alternative guitarist list of all time. He's just absolutely incredible. Just full of taste, full of creativity. So onward, Think Tank coming in at number 9 for me from 2003. Coming in at number 8 from 1991 is their debut, Leisure, or Leisure as some people say. Right here, they're starting off kind of trying to find their sound. The song on here, I never even knew was Blur at the time. There's No Other Way. I thought it was the Stone Roses back in the day, hearing that on K-Rock. Other highlights, She's So High. The song Sing is cool, but all of it's kind of the same. It has kind of the same vibe. I like Graham Coxon's guitar sound on here, kind of that heavy flange, kind of dirty sound. A lot of arpeggios, really cool stuff, but not really big on the songwriting spectrum yet for Blur. That would happen with the next album, Modern Life is Rubbish. They would completely do a 180. Their sound would kind of was more attributed to more Kinks, XTC, and British pop bands. This is more kind of like shoegaze, kind of dream pop kind of stuff. So, but still, it's their start. And with each succeeding Blur album, they would change their sound, which is another thing I really love about this band. I love bands with a lot of range. Blur has that in just spades, just a lot of range. But their first album, Leisure, definitely has some songs on it that are cool. but I think it's all kind of the same sound. But they would, again, just change their sound up. And with each album, every song sounds different on each album, kind of like the Beatles. So Leisure from 1991 coming in at number 8. Number 7 from 2015 is The Magic Whip. I think there was like a good 12-song or 12-year period there between The Magic Whip and their previous album, Think Tank. Graham Coxon is now back on board. What happened was there was a tour in Japan planned for Blur, but for some reason, unknown reason, it was canceled. So songs are being written while they were there, and out came this album. And I think they're kind of moving away from the electronic thing here, kind of getting back into guitar-based music, but it completely sounds like nothing like they've done before on previous albums, guitar-wise. Graham Coxon is adding more. Almost sounds like there's a little bit of Robert Fripp influence going on in his playing on this one. Kind of David Bowie-ish, kind of like maybe like a Heroes era kind of playing from Graham Coxon. But I'd say Lonesome Street's a fave on here. Ghost Ship, Ong Ong, which is kind of at the end of the album, and then Mirror Ball are probably my favorites. But as I keep listening to this one's growing on me over time. And I think this might become, maybe one of my favorites over time. But right now it's coming in at number 7. And it's a fine album from 2015. The Magic Whip. Coming in at number 6 is their latest album coming out in 2023, The Ballad of Darren. Another number 1 in the UK. They did a Coachella Festival, a couple of Coachella Festival appearances for this album. They played at Wembley Arena in July of 2023, a couple of huge shows. I don't know if anybody's seen that documentary To the End. I said that last week, talking about how they reconvened and prepared this album and went out and played Wembley Arena for a couple of sold-out nights. Kind of moving, very moving documentary. This is definitely more of a mature Blur. It's one of their shortest albums, coming in around 35 minutes. I think it's really good. It shows that they just keep moving forward, even though there's long gaps between albums. Very, very moving album. A lot of ballads, a lot of, you could tell there's a lot of deep emotion going on with Damon in these songs. And not a lot of guitar, a lot of more piano, a lot of more just ballad type stuff. But I think some of my favorites on here would be the Ballad of St. Charles Square, Barbaric I really like, Avalon, The Narcissist. I like Russian Strings. A fine album here from Blur. And I almost went and saw them I think they were playing somewhere in San Bernardino. I think, or was it Pomona, right before Coachella, but the show was sold out. But not a bad album for Blur here. 2023, good stuff. The Ballad of Darren from 2023 coming in at number 6. Now we've reached the top 5. To me, this is the kind of the meat and potatoes of the Blur catalog. You really can't go wrong with any of these albums. They're just really, really good. So we're coming in at number 5. Of course, this is all subjective, right? This is Blur's 13th album. There's about 4 or 5 songs on here that really rank as some of Blur's just greatest tracks. This is kind of like a half singer-songwriter type material, and the rest is kind of experimental electronic kind of stuff that they had kind of started on the previous self-titled album from '97. First off, that song Tender is just absolutely amazing. Just an amazing track. Kind of reminds me of Give Peace a Chance, just the rhythm of it. Jing, jigga, jing, jigga, jing. And then Bugman Rocks, really dirty guitar from Graham Coxon. Coffee and TV, just an absolute fantastic track by Graham Coxon with a really cool video if you've never seen it. I also love Mellow Song. Trim Trab is really cool. And then that No Distance Left to Run is a great heartbreaking track. Some great guitar playing from Coxon, some slide playing. Along with Tender, too, some really great slide playing. Just a real kind of a transitional album here. And the last with Graham Coxon for quite a while, until The Magic Whip in 2015. But half of this I really, really love. The other half is just kind of like, for me, a little meandering with the experimental. And a lot of it just doesn't, I think if they had just stuck with the songs, like the songwriting, like Tender and Coffee and TV and No Distance Left to Run, I think this would have been one of their absolutely absolutely one of my favorite albums of theirs. If it had just been a straight song album rather than including the experimental stuff. But nevertheless, really, really great album, and just some of their greatest tracks. Just incredible stuff. It sounds nothing like their previous album, their self-titled album either. They're always changing. That's what I love about Blur, is the range. All right, here's the top 4 for me. These are the 4 albums I've been listening to almost nonstop for the past 2 years. These are like, they're either like near perfect or absolutely perfect, okay? So coming in at number 4 is their self-titled album from 97, an incredible transition album. Coming off the last album, The Great Escape from 95, this doesn't even sound like the same band, okay? They've removed the shackles of the Britpop sound. They're going more towards an alternative sound here, with influences of Beck and Pavement and Sonic Youth. There's still some Beatle influences there, obviously, on the opening cut. Beatle Bum, which is one of their most amazing tracks, the way it's constructed. These 4 albums here really represent how amazing Blur is on the songwriting spectrum. I mean, just writing these just incredible songs. And it's what they put into these songs, lyrically, but also just all these little nuances that add so much to the songs. You know, a little keyboard part here, a little bit of backup vocal there. It's really, really amazing stuff. So what you got on here is just really one great song after another. You got Beatle Bum, Song 2, of course, which is like, you know, the anthem at every Kings game. And then you've got Country Sad Ballad Man, which kind of reminds you of Beck. Really, really cool song. And MOR, which kind of reminds me of Bowie's kind of Heroes era. On Your Own. Theme from Retro, I think, is the only song that doesn't really fit on this album. Otherwise, everything else is fantastic. You're So Great by Graham Coxon is just this kind of like lo-fi, crackly sounding track with his kind of like twee sounding vocals and his slide guitar playing, and there's this guitar solo in the middle that is just phenomenal. It's just an amazing track. Death of a Party is great. Chinese Bombs, they just go full-on hardcore punk for about less than 2 minutes. That's another thing about Blur. They could just turn around any kind of style within like seconds, right? It's like they're going along. There's Death of a Party, kind of like this dance kind of tune, and then all of a sudden this hardcore tune hits you. Just over the head. I'm Just a Killer for Your Love, this kind of dark, groovy kind of dance track. Look Inside America is fantastic. Kind of reminds me of kind of the Kinks a little bit. What is that? Strange News from a Different Star, Strange News from Another Star. Sorry, I can't read in this darkness. That kind of reminds me too of like classic Bowie, Hunky Dory, Ziggy Stardust. Moving On's great. Kind of reminds me of Mott the Hoople. And then it ends with Essex Dogs, this kind of like free-form poem played under this just weird sounding, you know, loping along track. Just a fantastic transition album here for Blur. Near perfect. Awesome. Blur's self-titled from 1997, coming in at number 4. And okay, I'm one of those people, I love the Britpop albums they put out, those 3 Britpop albums. I think they're just absolutely masterful. So coming in at number 3 for me is The Great Escape. This album is 30 years old, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it could have been released today. Every track, just about. Maybe they could have thrown out 1 or 2 tracks. Maybe like what is it? Arnold Same doesn't really belong on here, but the rest of the album just incredible. Stereotypes, Country House, Best Days. That sounds like a song that, you know, could have been written in the 60s and been a huge hit. Just amazing melody. Charmless Man rocks like the Kinks. Fade Away is incredible. Top Man, The Universal, gorgeous track. He Thought of Cars. It Could Be You kind of reminds me a little of XCC, the Kinks. By the way, these 3 albums, if you've never heard of Blur, if you're a fan of the Kinks, XCC, the Jam, Specials, Bowie, maybe a little T-Rex thrown in there, these are the albums for you. These are just timeless albums here released in the mid-90s. But the thing about Blur is they're not like aping these sounds from the 60s. They are completely creating these sounds from the past and making them their own. So this album, and this is one of those albums too, it's It's very, very kind of typical of the 90s, like these long CD players that last up to an hour. And I think Blur is one of the few bands I've seen that could fill a full hour of CD and make it work because the songs are so stellar. Dan Abnormal is great. It has these kind of Beatles harmonies. But I tell you, the jewel on here for me is that final track, Yuko and Hero. Oh my God, what an amazing track. With these warp sounding guitars, this gorgeous melody, and these really cool lyrics. I think it might be one of my favorite endings to any Blur album. Yuko and Hero. You must hear this track. You must hear this whole album. It is downright perfect just about. So The Great Escape coming in at number 3 for me from 95. And here are the two that, for me, are just absolute masterpiece pop albums. As we talked about before, Blur's Parklife for me coming in at number 2. Just unbelievable eclecticism going on here. It almost plays like a mid-60s Beatles album, you know, where it's just, there's so much like range, but the songs are just all so perfect and different. Tracy Jacks really reminds me of like XTC Respectable Street. End of a Century has that kind of mid to late 60s Kinks kind of acoustic kind of quality to it. Incredible. Parklife, the title track. Bank Holiday, another one of kind of their fast punk tracks. Bad Head with that kind of chimey birdsy sound. Amazing. The Debt Collector. Far Out, an Alex James track. Kind of sounds Sid Barrett-ish. And then the second half of the album is even better. To the End with Francois Hardy on backup vocals. Such a moving track. London Loves kind of reminds me of like Gang of Four a little bit. And then Trouble in the Message Center just rocks. It kind of reminds me of like early Pretenders mixed with a little Cars in there. Clover Over Dover might be my favorite track on the whole album. Just gorgeous. That harpsichord and that guitar line by Graham Coxon. That beautiful opening guitar line. Oh my God. And then in the middle, they throw in this little like sunshine pop la 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 part. Oh my God, it's so incredible. Magic America is so good. At Rocks, Jubilee, kind of reminds me of Mott the Hoople too. A little Mott the Hoople, maybe Sex Pistols. This Is a Low. By the way, This Is a Low. What an amazing end to an album. A perfect album, right? And This Is a Low, when I first heard it, it really reminded me of something Radiohead would do with OK Computer, 3 years ahead. I wonder if Radiohead heard This Is a Low and gained a little influence, because it kind of reminds me of what Radiohead would do with a track like Lucky or The Tourist. In fact, even Graham Coxon's solo on This Is a Low kind of reminds me of something Johnny Greenwood would do on The Tourist. So I don't know if there was some influence, but this particular track, This Is a Low, sounds very much like what OK Computer would sound like on tracks like The Tourist and Lucky. So this album is just an absolute masterpiece. I mean, it's just an absolute joy to listen to. And I can't believe this thing was under my nose for 30 years and I never listened to it or had any inclination to listen to it. I remember seeing the album cover at the record store and just going, I wonder what that is. And here 30 years later, it's become one of my favorite albums of all time, I think. It's probably entered my top 40. So Blur's Parklife, just a masterpiece from 94. And my number 1 is Modern Life is Rubbish. I like it so much I had to even get the vinyl. There is just not a bad moment on this one either. It's just Blur at their most rockiest, just rocking every track. Starts with For Tomorrow, and just every track after that. Colin Zeal, Advert. I love Pressure on Julian. Oh, so psychedelic and cool. And then you've got Blue Jeans, which I think is one of their most beautiful ballads. Chemical World is incredible. You got Sunday, and then a couple of psychedelic tracks together. Magic, not Magic America. We got Miss America, and we've got what is it? Well, let's look at the song list, shall we? We've got Oily Water and Miss America together. Really cool psych tracks. The track Oily Water has this this ending that will just melt your brain. This coda. And then probably my favorite track on the entire album, Villa Rossi. What a track. Great sing-along, so freaking catchy. I mean, for weeks when I first discovered this album, that song was going through my head constantly. And then Coping, Turn It Up and Resign. This is, along with Parklife, my 2 favorite Blur albums. Just absolute masterpiece albums here. So there you go, folks. Those are 9 of the studio albums ranked by me. Just my personal opinion on Blur. I just love this band. I'm so glad I discovered them for a quarter. All it took was a quarter to buy Park Life and turn me into a huge fan. Blur fans, what are your favorite Blur albums in order? Let me know. Favorite Blur tracks, Blur moments, let me know. Throw them in the comments section. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Take care. If you dig the content across the channel, press subscribe. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.